What's up, YouTube? Thank you so much for tuning in to the channel. My name is Troy. I'm a former fat guy sharing my story with the hope that it might help somebody else. If you support me in doing that, what I ask is you take a second to subscribe to the channel. Doesn't cost you a thing, but it means the world to me. So in this video, since there are so many other videos on the internet talking about how to lose weight, how to get in shape, how to tone up, I want to take it in a little bit of a different direction. And today we're going to talk about how to get as fat as possible. Now, before you immediately swipe away, what I want you to consider is that there was a point in my life where I was 333 pounds. That was as heavy as it got for me. And I've talked to many other people who have been far heavier, 400 or 500 pounds. And I talk to people all the time who have lost the weight. And there are some pretty consistent stories across people. So some of the things I'm going to share in this video were things that I was doing when I was at my heaviest. And the good news is, if you notice that you're doing some of these things, a lot of these areas, it's very easy to make some changes, some small adjustments. Some of these things are easy to just cut out altogether if you notice that you're doing it. And just by doing those small things, you can make some big progress. I feel like where a lot of people go wrong is they try to adopt a program that is just too drastic from what they're already doing. If you're trying to lose some weight, what you really need to do is you need to find something small, a small change to make, a 200 to 300 calorie change that you can make. And so I hope you can find that in this video. So let's talk about it. What would I do if I was trying to be as big and fat as possible? Well, let me tell you, I wouldn't miss the most important opportunity to do that, which would be breakfast. Breakfast is the most important meal of the day for someone who wants to gain weight, because if you skip breakfast, you're missing an opportunity. And the way that I would, if I was trying to gain weight, the way that I would do that is I would eat a sugar, fat, calorie bomb for breakfast. And I've done it to myself in the past with pretty innocuous things like bagels, for example. There have been times in the past when I've noticed that my uniform was starting to get kind of tight. My belt, I had to go to another belt loop. And I was like, what the heck is going on? And it was because I was driving by a Dunkin' Donuts every morning and I was getting a bagel with cream cheese. And just that, doing that every single day, it contributed to weight gain for me. And I feel like it does for a lot of people. When you eat that sugar, fat, calorie bomb right off the rip, think like donut, Danish, something like that, some of those things that we do, it sets you up to then be hungry like soon after, definitely by lunchtime. And so for me, it just sets me up to make poor food choices down the line later on in the day. And if you're trying to gain a bunch of weight, if you're trying to be as fat as possible, you don't want to miss that important opportunity. So keep that in mind. Never skip breakfast. Make sure that you hammer yourself with some sugar, fat, something that's high in calories. Because really what you want to be doing is you want to always be digesting. You always want to be eating, right? If you're trying to gain weight, it's not easy to do that by taking in whole food, right? If you're trying to lose weight, we oftentimes recommend people eat whole foods because really no matter what you're eating of whole foods, as long as it's just that, it's hard to overeat that kind of stuff. And people who are trying to gain weight often have trouble doing that on just plain whole foods because it's hard to eat that amount of food that you need to be able to gain weight. So if you're trying to lose it, you're overeating, what can we cut back on? Well, let's talk about it. If you were trying to be as big and fat as possible, I would recommend that since it's hard to eat that much food, I would say, hey, you know what? Eat a bunch of snacks. Always be snacking. And then you can always be digesting, right? Because you have your main meals, and those are pretty big. You stuff yourself pretty good when you have those. But then between those, you have what we can call snacks. And so it's almost like it doesn't even happen. We don't even really consider it meals. We consider it snacking. So it's almost like it's not happening, but it's giving us that constant feeding that we need to continue to gain weight. And maybe you notice yourself doing this, right? Snacking. A snack is something that I would, like my definition of snack is something that doesn't contribute to the survival of the organism. Because some of the stuff that we eat definitely does that, right? We can't just cut out everything that we're eating because we're gonna run into some complications with that from a survival standpoint pretty quick. So you have to eat. But I'd be willing to bet that maybe there's some things that you don't have to eat that you are eating, i.e., those would be easy things to cut out if that's what you're doing, right? If you were trying to lose weight, we could say eliminate snacking because it's not essential and you don't need it. But that's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to be as big and fat as possible. So we got to snack it up. Next, consider this. It's easy to drink your calories. So in order to be as heavy as we possibly can, it's difficult to eat enough food to make that happen. It really is. It's almost like a full-time job of eating. So a way to facilitate this process of gaining weight is we're going to drink our calories. Now, as a recovering soda drinker, I don't want to go down a rabbit hole here of how just like, Pepsi and Mountain Dew and RC Cola, and all these wonderful. There was a point in my life where I just sort of assumed that when you drank something, you just, you peed it out later. It's liquid in, liquid out. It's not the same as food. It doesn't affect you in the same way. That was my understanding. And so over time, my understanding has evolved. And so now, like, really what I recommend to people is that you would avoid drinking your calories because there's not a whole lot of satiety there. It doesn't make you feel full. It's easy to consume a whole bunch of calories. And so then it kind of goes back to that thing we just talked about of, is that essential? Now, imagine this. Imagine you're the type of person who's drinking a ton of regular soda, right? And you identify that, and then you just switch. You just switch to diet soda. I'm not even telling you to cut it out. But imagine the impact that would have if you're drinking a ton of this stuff, a ton of the full sugar stuff, and then you just, you go to, there's plenty of diet options, sugar-free, right? You switch to that. It's still sweet, still, it's close enough in flavor. And something like that could really help you make progress on your way. One of the ways that I started making progress was I stopped drinking soda. And just that one small thing just kind of like it helped me build a little bit of momentum. So get that out of your mind. We're trying to be as big and fat as possible here. So we got to drink our calories. Next, be mindful that certain things are going to fill you up. We're going to want to avoid those, right? Be careful of the chicken breast because if you have one or two of those guys, you're not going to be able to get your calorie requirements in to be big and fat. So really what I'm saying is that protein, i.e. chicken breast, right? For me, if I have a couple of chicken breasts, I feel full. So in order to gain a bunch of weight, we have to be mindful that there are going to be certain foods that are going to make us feel full. Those tend to be the whole food protein choices. And so let's lean into things that really are not so dense, right? But they're high in calories. So think of what that might look like. Things that tend to be heavy in carbs, fats, processed foods, for example, right? A lot of those can be very easy to overeat. So it is the battle to stay hungry. And with that, we're going to want to avoid having too many of those chicken breasts because they're going to fill you up quick. Next, assume that you already know everything. If you're the type of person that is struggling to lose weight, let's say, and you ask people about it, you take their temperature on it. Hey, what do you think about this? I've been trying to lose weight, X, Y, Z. And when people share with you things that they find are working for them, and you immediately go to a place of resistance or shut it down, or something about maybe, let's say, the ego steps in and prevents you from even taking a look at it, because you can't learn what you already think you know. And so if you feel like you already know everything, then the invitation would be to keep an open mind, maybe have some conversations, watch a few more of these videos, and find out what works for you. Because I talk to a lot of people, and many of them are successful, and they find what works for them. I found what works for me, and you can do it. Hang in there. Thanks for watching the video. We'll see you in the next one. Peace. Where the heck is my cursor here?